I went from working harder to working smarter. And I started becoming the CEO of a portfolio with very clear expectations. And that's what really is outlined in that book. It's how you can own real estate while owning your time. And those two things don't oftentimes go together. In fact, most real estate experts out there, they teach you how to do real estate. And yeah, you might make some good money doing real estate, but that's still not financial freedom.
Hey everyone, it's Tamara Thompson with Broadcast Your Authority, and I'm super excited for our next guest, which I'm actually going to have our panelist, Peter, introduce our next guest. Over to you, Peter.
Well, I appreciate that, Tamara. I am thrilled and honored to introduce one of the best men I know. He's changed my life and changed a lot of people that I associate with, their lives. And he wrote an amazing book here that I highly, highly recommend. Outlines a strategy, a financial plan that's different than anything you've ever seen. And I can't recommend it more. His name is Ryan D. Lee, and he wrote Retire in 10 Years or Less. Anything else I need to say about you, Ryan?
Man, he put that, the friendship was on the line, but that was a great one, Peter. Thank you for the intro. I'm excited to be here with everyone. This is gonna be a fun conversation.
Well, welcome to the show, Ryan.
Let's go.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I told you off camera, I was like, I wore green specifically for branding purposes.
Let's go.
There. So retire in 10 years or less. So
Yeah.
when people see that title, what do they think when they see like, what's this?
Yeah, you know what? It depends. It depends. Most of the people that resonate with that title are people that have followed the traditional financial rules for 10, 20, 30 years of their life. And they're finally starting to look up at, oh my gosh, my 401k, my, crypto or whatever they've done, it's not going to be enough. Am I ever going to be able to retire? And that's really where I find most of the people that want to work inside of what we do. We help people think differently about money and actually start with the most important fundamental thing with all retirement planning is how do I generate income from whatever assets I own? And that's really the big thing that we help people get focused on is I don't care what your net worth is, and you shouldn't either. What really matters is how much income your assets generate. Once we can start answering that question, everything starts to get some focus.
I've watched some cool TikTok videos, Instagram videos of you. You'll be like sitting down with people at like conferences and other places, and you'll be like, start doing like math with them. I'm like, this is interesting. So first off, before we dive into the book a little bit, can you tell me a little bit more about your backstory? Like, how did you actually get into real estate and investing and things like that?
Yeah, I never got into it with the intention of sitting in a chair like this or writing a book like that. I got into real estate because I was stuck financially. I'll never forget when I graduated college. I went to college because that was the thing you do, right? I had a girl that I was married to. I felt responsible. And I thought, okay, I got to get my college degree. And I got that first college job. I'll never forget. It's post-grad. I had to move to Tucson, Arizona. And I got my first paycheck. And this was back in the day when you get a paycheck, right? It was in an envelope. It had a little window by it. I could see the colored check in there. I was like, man, I'm a professional. And so I put that check in my back pockets and I took it to the Bank of America with the intention of like really just being a symbolic moment. And I opened the check, I looked at the check, and I had to flip it over a couple of times because I'm like, where's all the money? Like, what the heck is going on? There's no money on this check. And, for me, I realized I didn't love being told what to do. I didn't love sitting in a cubicle, but all of the social conditioning for me kicked in. I thought, okay, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to max from my 401k. I'm going to do all the things I'm told to do. And my goal was I want to retire early. That was my goal. And over the next 4 years, I took my little teeny paycheck over to, over six figures. I took my non-existent net worth over six figures. I had about $108,000 in total net worth. And that was in 2007. And in 2007, everything came crumbling down. Now, I know a lot of people lost money in 2007 or in 2008, but for me, my net worth dropped to about $28,000. And for the first time ever, I realized I had a goal to retire early, but I had no control over what I was doing. I had no playbook of how to have enough money, how to save enough, how the market could work. And really what I became aware of is without any control, what good is having a goal? Like I'm just along for a ride. And so that prompted me to start questioning the traditional financial system to say, look, how much do I actually have to be able to retire early? And what I discovered by asking that question shattered the whole facade that system would never work.
So what made you just, I guess, honestly, I think it's really impressive that you wrote a book about it. And what you're trying to do is pass that knowledge to other people.
Yeah.
Why do you think a lot of other people don't pass their knowledge like you are doing?
You know what? That's a really good question. It's hard. It's hard to put yourself out here. It's hard to sit in a seat like this and say, I wrote a book and you should follow it, right? I'm really smart. But here's the reality of it. I'm so grateful for people that did that for me. When I sat down and actually started looking at my 401k balance and doing the math behind it to realize what it would take to make that work, I realized the math was impossible. And here's the crazy part. Once your paradigm, your perspective changes, the world that you see around you changes. And I picked up a book. It's a little purple book, right? And it's the Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad. And when I picked up that book, it confirmed everything that I had suspicions of in the back of my head. When he said savers or losers, for the first time ever, I felt like a loser. Not because I was saving, but because the math wouldn't work out. I could never retire early, which was what my objective was, trying to save my way there. And so Kiyosaki was the first person to pass his knowledge on to me that opened up a doorway of a new possibility. And then the co-author of that book is Robert Allen. Once I read Kiyosaki's book, I realized that the traditional financial model was fundamentally broken, especially if I wanted to retire early, but I didn't know what to do about it, right? And then, so I picked up this book and it was called Creating Wealth. It was written by a man named Robert Allen. And it wasn't the title of the book that caught my attention. It was the subtitle. In his subtitle of his book, he said, follow Allen's 7 principles and you could retire in 10 years or less. And I thought to myself, I can do anything for 10 years. Give me the playbook. And I read his little book, and his little book was buy 2 single family homes a year and do it for 10 years. And again, I thought, I can do anything for 10 years. I'm going to go start buying single family homes. So, that's what really opened me up to starting down this pathway, as other mentors, other people shared their knowledge and experience with me that gave me a pathway of possibility that I didn't previously know existed.
Yes.
I think my favorite part of the story that we talked about yesterday was, these are the guys that changed your life. Robert Kiyosaki and Robert Allen changed your life. And here we are, fast forward, just because you happen to pick up a book by both of these gentlemen, here we are with your book published. And in case you can't see it on the screen when he talks, Robert Allen's name is also on the front of that book. He co-authored this book with you.
Yeah.
And on the back of it, the very first endorsement you have is Robert Kiyosaki. So these guys that motivated you and inspired you to change your life now went from inspiration to peers in your life. So tell the story about how that kind of happened and how that's a pretty cool journey, I think, to go on.
You know what, man, I feel like I'm so blessed by people who have, charted the path ahead of me, right? I don't know how to do the next step in front of me because I've got big visions and big goals, but I know that there are people that have already done what I want to do. And if I can get around those people, then my entire life opens up. And so I remember, when I quit, when I read Robert Allen's book, I started buying real estate, okay? And I made a lot of mistakes along the way, a lot of mistakes. And I learned the power of having mentors and coaches and guides to do it more effectively. But after 4 years, I'll never forget the time when I walked into my corporate office. I still had a corporate job, and my boss told me, hey man, you're going out on the road. You're going to do things again that you don't want to do. And I told him I quit. Now, I didn't mean to quit the day that I ended up quitting, but I'd built up enough real estate, enough cash flow to give me options that were always there. I just didn't allow myself to see, because if I don't work for money, how am I going to support my life, right? I had 2 kids now and a wife. And so I'll never forget when I quit my job, I wasn't quitting to go out and help other people. I was quitting because I was in pain and I didn't want to do, the corporate rat race anymore. But when I quit, most people thought I was crazy. I was making 6 figures selling medical device sales, but there were a couple of people that were like, how did you do it? And can you share with me as well? And so for the next couple of months, I started sharing what little I knew about what I had done, and other people started getting success. They started moving forward. They started having more options in their life, and then they would refer their friends over. And before I knew it, what never intended to start as a business started becoming a business. People wanted me to show them how to also retire in 10 years or less. And so I started doing that. And for 7 years, I started doing that. And we had hundreds of people, thousands of people that have come through our program and our systems to really do this. And we were hosting an event a couple years ago. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if I reached out to the people who I reference on constantly and invited them to come to this event? And I brought these people to the event, and I stood them up on stage and I gave them an award, and we called it a Lifetime Achievement Award, right? And they had all of these people on the stage that they got to look out on. And I said, I'm so grateful for you because you opened up a doorway of possibility for me. And through me, I've been able to open up a doorway of possibility for all these people. And I'll never forget Robert Allen specifically. He said, sometimes you sit alone in a desk and you write a book. and you wonder who's on the other side of those pages. And I don't oftentimes get to see it, but for the fact that you invited me to this event, you treated me and my wife like celebrities, and you allowed me to see the impact that my words have made. It was really fulfilling for them. And both of those individuals, really right now, the game they're in is they want to pass their legacy forward. They want someone to pick up the torch that they lit and carry it forward. And so I'm grateful that they've given me that stewardship, that opportunity to carry their torch forward.
The gratitude piece is so important with everything from the giving value first, building relationships, but there's like the human connection, being able to connect with people in general, just in person, is you can go 10 times faster, further faster on that side. And what I love about you is every conversation that I've heard, if it's on a podcast or a conversation, even on a Zoom call, like you've always expressed gratitude, and you've become this, like, you're an extremely humble person. And I think that's when you can see that genuinely when people,
I'm the humblest guy you would never know.
Yeah. But like one of those things is like but it comes through, it seeps through you. And I think that's what's really incredible about that. And that's why these people trusted you. And then you gave them this great experience so that you could build that relationship. And now, of course, co-author book, you have forwards to your book and all the things. You even had Robert Kiyosaki on your summit that you just recently had as well. And Ed Milet, and you had these great people, but you take the action. If you're like thinking, believing in manifestation or not, or setting those goals and those intentions, it's so cool to see that. But now you're helping all these other people. It's like a ripple effect. So it's super exciting to be in your space to see this.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
Ryan, one of the things, I'm one of those guys on the other side of those pages of that book, and you've mentored me and helped me over the last few years achieve financial freedom. And now I get to be a part of your quest to help others. What's been surprising to you as you number one Amazon bestseller? I mean, you've had phenomenal reception from this book, but I'm sure there's been surprises also by releasing your words, your ideas, your thoughts into the world. What's been a surprise or two that maybe you've had as a result of putting your words out there?
Yeah, honestly, the biggest advantage I think of writing that book down is for the first time ever, I sat down and I thought through every step of the process. And for the first time ever, I put it into a process that is digestible and repeatable for anyone that has the courage to read it and to follow the action steps. So that was number one, is writing a book. You have to tell a story, a full story. Now, here's the crazy part about this, Peter. You've known me for a long time. When I first left the corporate world, you know what I first tried to do? Write a book. And I remember sitting in the library, right? And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm learning about these pages. And so I started helping people and teaching people and doing, sharing. And about 7 years ago, I tried to write a book again. And again, I still didn't fully have the full picture yet. I've now helped people for 12 years. So I've been in this game for myself personally for 16 years, but I've helped people now for 12 years. And the advantage of having 10 years worth of perspective, of helping people go from nothing to fully retired in 10 years, I can see the big picture. And I think what has surprised me the most is when it was time to write the book, it just flowed. It just came out. Like, it was the easiest thing to write that book at the right time. And it wasn't the right time until I had actually seen it through for enough people for 10 years straight that I could see the big picture, where I can say confidently, not even confidently, with absolute certainty, that if you're stuck with money, I have a framework that will allow you to get unstuck with money and retire in 10 years or less.
Yep. Well, tell us about your first deal, because I'm a real estate nerd. So, tell me about, you said as you're reading the book, you were buying property. Tell us about your first deal.
Let me tell you about my third deal. Okay?
Tell me about that.
Now, I mean,
the
here's
third one's the one you want to hear about.
Tell me the third one.
Well, so here's the reality. I don't know, this book isn't written to make you a professional real estate investor. This book is written to help you own and control your time, right? Yes. Financial freedom is a function of, income greater than expenses. But the thing I got wrong in this whole game was I thought that's what it was. I didn't understand that financial freedom is a function of how much time I own. And so, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read, Robert Allen's book. I'm like, cool, real estate, I guess, is the path to go. I bought my first property, and I'll be honest with you. I walked around the corporate office after that first property. My chest was all puffed out. I'm like, I'm mini Grant Cardone. I'm a real estate investor. I had no idea what I was doing. Zero idea. I mean, I could fog a mirror. They gave me a loan. I bought a property, right? I bought my second property. I was a little bit anxious because, man, it's a lot to go from reading a book to now owning and operating a real estate business. Now, I get it, only 2 properties, but I'm still trying to hold down a corporate job. And every every property that I was buying, I had to find it. I had to rehab it. I had to renovate it. I had to find a tenant. I had to then collect the rents. And, after my third property, I legit had a panic attack, right? I really did, because I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And here I have 3 mortgages, 3 properties. And what I was starting to realize is I was getting further away from financial freedom with every step that I was taking, because I had a part-time job in real estate and a full-time job selling medical equipment back in the day. And so on the third property, I was doing lease options back in the day, and the tenant gave me a $5,000 down payment. Now, his application had every, warning sign on it like you could possibly imagine, but he's like, dude, I'll give you $5,000. I'm like, I'll take
credit report was actually on fire when it came out of the machine.
Yeah. The $5,000 was like, I'm going to take it, right? And I'll never forget the next 6 months, I paid that $5,000 back to him in spades with both my attention and actual money. And about 6 months after I put that tenant in the property, I'm up in a hospital up in Rapid City, South Dakota, trying to sell a boardroom of medical providers, medical equipment, because that's what I did. And my phone, boom, it just started going off, vibration after vibration. And I developed a healthy anxiety at my phone at that point, because I knew every time it rang, it was probably a problem with one of my 3 properties that I was ill-equipped to handle. And after it rang and rang and rang, I finally excused myself from the boardroom and I listened to all my voicemails. And voicemail number 1 was from the tenant's wife, crying, saying she's so sorry. She'll never let it happen again. Please don't evict them. Now, I didn't have the courage to evict anyone, but she's like, please don't evict me. And then voicemail number 2 was from, or 2, 3, 4, and 5 were from the neighbors of the house that I own, saying they're going to sue me. And then voicemail number 5 was from the tenant, screaming, belligerent, yelling, saying he'd do it again. That cat never should have come on his lawn. And the final voicemail is from a police officer saying, son, you better call me. You got a problem. So I call up the police officer and he tells me, hey, your tenant shot with a gun a cat in the middle of a crowded neighborhood. He said the cat didn't belong on his lawn and shot the cat. And here I am thinking I'm going to get sued. Now, in hindsight, these problems are easy to identify and avoid completely. But in the moment, I felt like I'm going to lose everything again. And I'm grateful I was in a hospital, because I melted into the corner and had a panic attack.
Did he shoot the cat 9 times?
9 lives.
How many times did he shoot? 7? Okay, just twice? Okay.
See how many lives it has.
That was my first lesson, though, my first real lesson. I had taken enough action to realize, I have a little bit of cash flow coming in, but unless I own my time, this isn't financial freedom. And I almost contemplated quitting real estate, becoming one of the horror stories that are like, I tried it and it didn't work out. But I was so committed. I was committed to my why of achieving financial freedom. And so I decided to build a better system. And for the first time in my life, I went from working harder to working smarter. And I started becoming the CEO of a portfolio with very clear expectations. And that's what really is outlined in that book. It's how you can own real estate while owning your time. And those two things don't oftentimes go together. In fact, most real estate experts out there, they teach you how to do real estate. And you might make some good money doing real estate, but that's still not financial freedom.
That's right.
I'm sure you have more stories like that in the book, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I was like, well, could you share a little bit with our audience, how they can pick up the book, how they can connect with you, all the fun things?
Man, all the fun things. Number 1, you can go to retireintenyears.com. When I wrote that book, the objective of that was to give you a playbook, but not just a playbook. It was to help you see that playbook applied in your life. So with that book, it comes a companion course where you can actually run calculators. You can actually chart your own path to financial freedom. You'll see everything. So get in there. You can get the audiobook, you can get the actual book, but get into the companion course. That way you can see what's not working in your life with your own numbers, and then see what the alternative possibility is of how you can actually retire in 10 years or less.
I love that. Could you share with our audience where they can connect with you? Instagram, website, all that stuff?
Yeah, all the places. So for me, you can find me at the Ryan D. Lee. I guess there's enough Ryans out there that it had to be the Ryan D. Lee.
I would say you're the Ryan Lee anyway.
I was thinking.
You're the only Ryan Lee I know, so you're the Ryan
When I
Lee.
introduce myself to my wife, I'm like, hey, the Ryan D. Lee is home, baby.
She loves that.
She loves it, yeah. So go theRyanDLee.com and then go to YouTube, Wealth Outside Wall Street. In fact, for me, I really believe that's the doorway of opportunity for you. We've been trained, taught, and educated on a traditional financial system, and that's giving your money away and becoming dependent on everything you don't control, markets, taxes, financial advisors, all of that stuff. Yeah. But if you're willing to take control, if you're willing to rise up and take control over your money, money is quite literally a tool. And Wealth Outside Wall Street will teach you the mindsets and the skill sets to take control of your money and then truly retire in 10 years or less. And Tamara, if I can say one more thing about that idea, I wanted to meet people where they were at. I don't believe in the idea of retirement. Okay, now I'm sorry, but I don't believe in the idea of retirement. I believe money's greatest intrinsic value is to give you more freedom, more control, and really more options with what you do with the time that you own. And so my objective is to remove the constraint of money and allow you to step into a life that you would live if money wasn't the primary driver of the decisions that you make. That's what I believe in.
There you go.
Amen to that. Well, thank you, Ryan, for joining us today. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for those of you who are watching, be sure to subscribe to Broadcast Your Authority on YouTube. We're on TikTok, Instagram, you name it. Also our website, broadcastyourauthority.com, to see what we're up to, and leave us a review on Apple or Spotify, and we'll see you in the next episode.